The top 10 best suburbs in Florida for 2023. What is a suburb? A suburb in the United States is a residential area that is not part of an urban core but is attached to a metropolitan area. We're going to first define exactly what a suburb is because some people who watch our videos don't even know what a metropolitan area is. Around the world, the word suburb can have many different definitions. For some people, it's a residential area. For other people, it's a neighborhood. So the term suburb all around the world is used in different fashions to describe different types of neighborhoods. In the context that we're using it for this video, it is a residential area that is attached to a large metropolitan, a desirable newer area that is not a town. Urban sprawl outside of a larger city with lots of newer housing. In Florida, the vast majority of suburbs, even those with large populations, are unincorporated. Therefore, some of the places we're going to talk about today are going to be within city limits, others will not. When we refer to a town, we're not referring to the actual city limits, but of the suburban newer housing sprawl that is wrapped around that area. Places in Florida like Cape Coral and Boca Raton or Port St. Lucie are actually suburbs. However, they are so large that we're going to omit them from our list. Sorry that I have to baby feed you guys this information, but quite literally we're going to see people in the comment section that don't know what a suburb is, don't know what a metropolitan area is, and they don't even understand how far a metropolitan area can span. If an area is suburban, but it has a town center core that is historic and it's laid out like a city, we're also going to omit that from our list because it's more of a town than a suburb. Take Hialeah, for example. It has 200,000 people. However, because it is attached to a larger city, it is still a suburb. Bonita Springs, Florida is smaller than Hialeah, but it is not a suburb because it is not attached to a larger city and it has its own identity as a town. I hope you guys understood what I said because this list has to make sense. We're talking about newer suburban areas in Florida, not towns, not designated population areas, not small cities or subdivisions outside of a large city that are part of a larger urban sprawl. When we think about suburbs in the United States, we're thinking about newer construction, areas that are perhaps not fully built up yet. Number 1 is Coral Gables, a suburb of Miami that is technically considered its own city. This Mediterranean design community has about 50,000 people. The incomes are high, the diversity is incredible, and it offers a suburban feel right in the center of an urban core. Real estate values here can push upwards of $50 million for properties along the water. This suburban city hosts many events throughout the year, keeping the community active. One of the safest places in Florida with high incomes and attractive statistics. For those looking for proximity to Miami, the state's largest metropolitan area, Coral Gables offers you the ability to live in a smaller, less congested place while still having proximity to downtown Miami. While there are many historic homes here, the new construction, diversity of the community, and the all-around vibe feels like a suburb. Despite being a suburb, Coral Gables is not soulless. There's culture, authentic food. This city combines all of the comforts of city living with the more relaxed pace of life that you would expect in a suburban park. A combination of Latin American and European cuisine will keep your taste buds happy. Even on a weekday, you can find nightlife here, and many restaurants keep their doors open with tables outside. Many suburban areas really lack character. That is definitely not the case with Coral Gables. Number 2 is Lake Nona. Located within the city limits of Orlando, it is still geographically barriered from the urban core. Highways and an airport serve as a buffer, keeping this little area isolated from the rest of the urban complex. One of the most healthy combinations of diversity that I have seen anywhere in Florida. Whether you are black, Hispanic, Asian, or white, you should feel very comfortable in this community. With a great focus on walkability and safety, your children will have access to parks, sidewalks, and safe places to explore. The area offers great access to hospitals, restaurants, and many other amenities. Being on the edge of the Orlando metropolitan area means that for your daily commute, you're going to be free from much of the congestion that Orlando is known for. A toll road gives you a direct access to the beaches from the outskirts of the Orlando metro area, which means if you decide that you want to see the beach on a particular day, you don't have to be stuck in Orlando traffic. And if you like to travel, the Orlando International Airport is right outside of Lake Nona. A staple of Florida suburbs are lakes behind properties, beautiful brand new public stores, and of course the good old Starbucks. With children's hospitals and cancer treatment centers in the area, this is a great place for people who need to be close to care. While quite expensive, this area offers just about everything a suburban family would want. Number 3 is Weston, Florida, located outside of Fort Lauderdale, and it also has very easy access into Miami. Being on the far western edge of the metropolitan area, you can also get out into the Everglades. Weston is a very diverse place. About half the population is white, and 7% of the population is Asian. This suburb is increasingly popular with wealthy South Americans from places like Colombia, Venezuela, and Argentina. And as you would guess, their culinary contribution makes this one of the best places to live in Florida. It's a safe, clean community with a lot of diversity, easy access to Broward and Dade County, with beautiful lakes, palm trees, a real tropical paradise. Number 4 is Jupiter, Florida. While there is the city of Jupiter, we're referring to the suburban sprawl just to the west of the city. Within the city limits of Jupiter are some of the nicest suburban parts of Florida. Nearby Palm Beach Gardens also has incredible shopping opportunities. If you're looking for a relaxing and clean tropical feel, you may enjoy the Jupiter area. The northeastern corner of Palm Beach County is one of the most beautiful and elegant places in the state of Florida. Not only is it a great place to visit, it's also a great place to live. And for being an area with a suburban feel, it is remarkably close to the water. There's few places in southeast Florida where you can go from the suburban sprawl to the beach in a very short period of time. Jupiter's location is perfect. The area is also buffered with other suburbs before you get to the urban core of West Palm Beach. Number 5 is the Hammocks, a suburb of Miami, very close to the Florida Everglades, with easy access to Homestead, a beautiful tropical agricultural area for those who are fans of tropical fruit and tropical plants. If you really enjoy tropical agriculture, mango trees, there's places like the Fruit and Spice Park, one of the best collections of tropical plants in the United States. At first glance, the Hammocks doesn't seem very impressive, but when you understand the Miami metropolitan area and you have a location where you're right on the western edge of Miami, it means you can go into the city when you want to be in the city, or you can go far off into the Everglades with extremely easy access. The road heading into Homestead gives you prime access to the Florida Keys, which means if you want to live in Miami but not feel trapped by the urban core, the Hammocks is a clear choice. With a Hispanic population nearing 80%, the food in this area is incredible. The main roads are lined with Publix's, Starbucks, and gyms. And smaller cafes are going to offer Cuban and Latin American cuisine. But let me reiterate, the best thing that this suburb has going for it is the fact that within 15 minutes you could be in the Florida Everglades. Whether you enjoy fishing or you enjoy hiking, having that clear-cut cross right across to the Everglades, the location of this suburb is really prime. Surrounded by nature, suburbs, and agricultural areas, this really won't feel like you're living in Miami, but if you need to get into Miami, it's not that far away. With good incomes and a lot of safety, this suburb has a lot to offer. And while the area is predominantly Hispanic, there are pockets of white population east of Kendall and north of Homestead in the Redland area, so you can still have access to a lot of great American cuisine and other little cultural things you may want to do. At first glance, the Hammocks really don't look that impressive, but when you understand the geographical location and how easy it is to access so many other suburban things from here, you'll start to appreciate the value of this place. And with agricultural areas adjacent, the potential for new growth is always there as well. Number 6 is Wellington, Florida. This is a very beautiful, mostly large development that's planned very well right outside of West Palm Beach. Again, being on the western edge of the metropolitan area allows you the opportunity to do a lot of nature-related things. And if you head east into the city, you can be in the urban core. While there are great suburban areas here, there's also very large plots. The area is a huge center for equestrian activities. That is, horses. La gente tiene una pila de caballo a city. Of course, Wellington's not a city, it's not a suburb, it's technically a village. And what that means to the rest of us is, well, that pep don't stink. For all practical purposes, it's a nice suburb of West Palm Beach where a lot of people have land, horses. Great little area, great selection of restaurants as well. West Palm Beach is very diverse. In a welcoming area, you're going to have Latino, African American, white, just a beautiful mix of everybody. Means when you go out to dinner, you have a great selection of things you can go do, not just the same boring, bland crap. One of the reasons people just don't like living in American suburbs is the lack of authentic cuisines and things to do. And we're going to get to some of those suburbs later on in this video, but so far, a lot of the places we've explored, like Wellington, Coral Gables, these are places that have a lot of essence, a lot of authenticity, a lot of diversity, which means when you go out for dinner, you can get Argentinian steak, you can get Peruvian steak, you can go for sushi, you can go for Asian, Hispanic. The possibilities are endless with these Florida suburbs because the diversity means that even though it's a suburb, it's not a bland place lacking authenticity. That is one of the biggest complaints people in the United States have about these suburbs. 11% of the population is black, 5% is Asian. That's really great for a rich area in Florida. There just aren't that many Asian people in Florida, so when you find a pocket that has 5% Asian, you know there's going to be a lot of great restaurants. Sushi, Thai, Filipino, all that's really popular with suburban people now in the United States. If you go on bestneighborhoods.org, you can go to their race map. You'll see that there's a nice little pocket of African American predominance in this neighborhood, which a lot of people want that. Sometimes it's kind of hard to find wealthy African American areas, and this is a great little pocket. Palm Beach County in general is a great place to be African American as well. If you look up statistics for income and just livability for the African American community, Palm Beach is a leader in that category, as well as some pockets of Broward County. And it's no surprise with celebrities like Tiger Woods and Serena Williams living in this part of the state. And another stereotype that suburban areas in the United States have is that they are predominantly white. But the beautiful thing about Florida is that you have a lot of suburbs that are very diverse. Clean, nice communities that offer something other than golf. That's the beautiful thing about Wellington too. It offers you the opportunity to have horses, just to do something different, you know. Florida has a lot of strange communities. In Brooksville and Spring Hill, they have pigeon racing communities. So Florida doesn't just cater to golf. There's also airplane communities outside of Ocala. There's all types of different things going on in Florida. So if you're into a specific niche hobby like horses or airplanes or pigeons, whatever the crap you're into, Florida has something special for you. Take Homestead, for example. If you're into agriculture, the outskirts of Homestead are perfect for tropical vegetation. Number 7 is Kendall. This is a suburb between Miami and Homestead. And I know you guys are thinking, oh, okay, Jose, you're playing favorites here. But I'll be honest, Kendall really is a great place. You have some of the wealthiest communities in Florida right along the water south of Miami. You have great restaurants. You still have really great shopping here, like the Dayland Mall. You're never far from a Starbucks and a Publix here. Kendall is one of the few places in Miami-Dade where there's still pockets of white population, so if you only speak English, that's pretty good. It's low on our list because it's an older suburb, and again, most people, when they think about suburbs, they want everything to be brand new. Some parts of Kendall, let's be honest, are getting kind of old, but they're always putting in new apartments and new communities and just trying to keep up with the suburban feel. It's incredible how long this suburb has actually been relevant for. Somehow, even though it's got 80,000 people, it's unincorporated. Yeah, that's Florida for you. Not sure why, but Florida has a very hard time incorporating suburbs, especially suburbs that have, I don't want to get into this, but Florida really has a problem with unincorporated areas. How Kendall is not a city or something, it's just beyond me. But that's Florida for you. A whole 80,000 people, but it's just a place. It's not a city or a village. 20% of the population identifies as white. Blacks and Asians are less than 5,000 people, and then like 71%, the vast majority, are going to be Hispanic. Not a surprise for Southwest Miami. What makes Kendall a great place to live is the fact that it's very clean, safe, suburban, and you probably won't need Spanish here. O.J. Simpson used to live here, and it's also rumored that Trick Daddy lives out here. If you got some real big bucks, you can end up just east of US 1 in Cutler Bay, Pinecrest, a few of these really wealthy parts of Miami's for people who think their poop don't stink. They got a crap load of money. That's right outside of Kendall too. Another reason I just want to throw Kendall in here is that now that Miami is a fast growing city and people from all over are moving into Miami, this is possibly the type of area in Miami you would want to end up in. Number 8 is Lakewood Ranch, where I currently live right now until I can't afford it anymore. Lakewood Ranch has all the things you would want. Light traffic. It is one of the most incredibly designed communities in Florida. Very well planned out. Traffic is not a problem here. There's bike paths, there's Publixes every mile, there's Starbucks. Not that the Starbucks here would run out of anything, but if they did, the other Starbucks is never more than 5 minutes away. What I really enjoy about living here are lakes. I like fishing and I like nature, and there's lakes everywhere. There's usually trails around the lakes where you can walk or bike. If you like being outdoors like I do, this is the perfect place. The reason it's low on the list is because Lakewood Ranch really is missing one main thing: flavor. I mean, this place is bland. The restaurants are just right down the middle. They're throwing a lot of really bland restaurants. We have a lot of restaurants, but they're all bland. There's not a lot of real authentic food here. There's one Peruvian place that was okay. It was like $120. I ate at an American Bistro type place. It was $60. You get the idea. The things that we have are really expensive, and they're not all that great, and they're not all that many. Now, if you enjoy eating bland, tasteless food that's 3 times what it should be worth, Lakewood Ranch will definitely be the place for you. I don't mind being around really wealthy people because, after all, I'm from Naples, Florida, but I have noticed that here in Lakewood Ranch, a lot of the famous people are really big on social media, and they kind of like to suppress other people, like small creators like myself. And I've had people not like directly but almost indirectly try to check me for my content as if I gave a crap who they were. These are the ones you see driving around in really expensive cars, just acting a complete fool as if they own the entire place. Again, I'm from Naples. I'm used to seeing these types of things, but I do feel because there's a lot of younger wealth here, they kind of have like a lot of ego attached to their like wealth, and there's just kind of a little bit of a hothead here. Lots of people you see that are young driving around a Ferrari and they're young. It's almost like don't ever give young people money because their ego will swell to a size you couldn't believe. That's really just the start of my complaints about this place, but I like it. It's nice, it's safe. Most importantly, it's very safe and clean. You can't put a price tag on that, but it's weird how when I lived in Naples, there's possibly 10 times more wealth in Naples than there is here in Lakewood Ranch, but people are just kind of more perhaps accustomed or level-headed about their wealth. I do run into young people here who you can just tell their ego is through the roof because they're in a $300,000 car. I've literally seen a guy that has a Lamborghini that makes it a point to every single day rev his engine past apartments so the people in the apartments can hear that he can afford a Lamborghini. I like this place a lot, but really, if you're gonna live here, you have to make ridiculous sums of money because just eating out is just too expensive. Renting is not expensive. As you can see up ahead, there's like a lot of brand new apartments. These apartments are usually brand spanking new and they're really affordable, especially if you go with like a one bedroom. The good thing is if you want more authentic food, you're not far from Bradenton, you're not far from Sarasota, you're not far from Wilmama, and you're not far from Tampa and St. Pete. So if you absolutely need to eat something real and authentic, you can just drive out of Lakewood Ranch. I've met some great people out here. When I moved into my building, somebody literally volunteered to help us unload our stuff, which was incredible because I didn't know who they were. And the people that knew who I was didn't help me load the truck to begin with. But the people that I deal with in my community and at the stores that I go to just seem like really awesome people. Like I said, the biggest complaints that I would have is just running into people whose egos are too big. And of course, the fact that it's somewhat bland. This area continues to grow. There's a lot of employment opportunities here. There's also a lot of classes you can take, schools, medical schools. I mean, this place is loaded with opportunities. I'm not really big on events, but if you are big on events, there's a racetrack where people race cars right off of 64. There's also a lot of like elephant museums and zoos. You can go let your kids pet or ride an elephant or something like that. On the event side, there's a lot going on here, and there's a town center which almost every weekend has like kids playing hockey or baseball games. So there's a lot of events once you get involved with the community. Well, if you don't have kids, you can just stay home and troll people on Facebook. There's a lot of famous YouTubers in this area. I mean, I've friended like 4 people who have like 3 million subscribers that live here. It's kind of an odd thing, but I feel more comfortable living here knowing that there's so many famous YouTubers. To be honest, I'm really a nobody here with less than 100,000 subscribers. There's people from all over the United States out here. Like in the buildings that I live in, I've seen people from New Jersey, Connecticut, Alabama, Minnesota, Wisconsin, New York, New Jersey, New York, and New York. I think there's also a Florida Troopers Association or training center or something because there's Florida Troopers everywhere out here. If we got a nice Cuban restaurant out here, I'd probably stay. Or if we ran out of money, that's a much more likely scenario. Number 9 is Claremont, Florida, located outside of Orlando. This little suburb is really neat. Lots of new construction here, kind of beautiful rolling hills. There is a little bit of a town, but I'm going to include it on the list because there's so much of an urban sprawl, suburban feel, lots of new construction on the outskirts. There is a town of Claremont, but there's so much growth and so much suburban sprawl that I'm going to include it on here as a suburb, even though it's really a little town. As expected in the Orlando area, there's lots of beautiful lakes. And this is possibly one of the largest growing parts of Florida. I mean, the amount of houses going between Claremont and Davenport is huge. This area is growing like crazy. It scores low on my list because it's adjacent to some of the worst parts of Orlando. And occasionally you get what people call spillover crime. And this one is almost kind of like a sheet because there really is a town of Claremont downtown. Like, it's actually more of a town. But then again, the suburban sprawl is so big out here. It goes on forever. Like the whole 27 Davenport Claremont, it's just one never-ending suburban subdivision. It's just unbelievable how many houses they're building out here. So it's a suburban area, but if you wanted to go to town, I guess you could. We were here for a day and we ran into a kind of awkward individual, kind of a weird experience. And then that person went on to bother somebody else who was then, it's just kind of weird. You get a lot of like weird Orlando crap happen here. Again, it's a fast growing area, but it's not going to be at the top of my list. I know other people have said it's the best in Florida, but the time that I've spent in this area tells me there's still too much proximity to all the crazy crap going on in Orlando. Number 10 is Wesley Chapel, located right outside of Tampa, Florida. Again, with the disclaimers, I know a lot of my Tampa people were really overly zealous about their suburbs. I had no idea. I did this thing where I let you guys vote just so I can feel out where you guys are in some of these suburbs. And I know this list did not make a lot of people happy because I didn't realize how sentimental Floridians are about their suburbs. I had no idea. I thought I could just make a list about suburbs and it wouldn't be a problem, but I realized based on the comments that you guys are very sentimental about your suburbs. I can make a city about the most dangerous, like list top 10 most dangerous cities in Florida. No, it wouldn't bother anybody. Nobody would be upset, but make a list about suburbs and all the emotions come from my Florida people. At the end of the day, there's something you guys should know about Tampa suburbs. The Tampa metropolitan area is not really defined. There's 4 different definitions. 2 of the definitions include Manatee and Sarasota County. When I say that Lakewood Ranch, where I live, is a suburb of Tampa, people get really furious at me. People that live in the Tampa area. Now, I would expect people in Louisiana, Alabama, and Mississippi not to know what a metropolitan area is, but I'm really disappointed at how many people in Florida don't know what a metropolitan area is. We're better than that, Florida. But in case you're wondering, you can look up the Tampa Bay metropolitan area, and there's 4 definitions because Tampa cannot agree on what the crap a metropolitan area is, apparently. I can be in Tampa in like 40 minutes. I can be in St. Pete in like 35 if there's no traffic, which is like 2 in the morning, possibly. One real good way to gauge if your suburb is part of a metropolitan area is if at some point you have to go to that city to get something that's part of your regular day-to-day life. In my case, I shop at the Bass Pro Shop. There's no Bass Pro Shop in Sarasota. The closest Bass Pro Shop to me is in Tampa, Florida. Therefore, I live in a Tampa suburb because some of the things that I get on a regular basis require a drive to Tampa. One good example is when I lived in Millbrook, Alabama. To get my driver's license, I had to go to Montgomery, Alabama. Therefore, Millbrook is a suburb of Montgomery. I don't really understand why people struggle with the notion of a metropolitan area. I don't really understand why people in the United States are so precise about this matter. I've done videos where I won't enter the city limits for like 20 seconds, or if I leave the city limits for a 2-minute part of the video, somebody will comment, at 1805, you left the city limits. You're no longer in this city, so now your video has to have a different title. I'm like, there's nothing else for 50 miles. I'm in this town. And it's weird because for some reason, people are very picky about like city limits, metropolitan areas, and a lot of time, they know absolutely nothing about it. I really couldn't believe how many people told me that Lakewood Ranch isn't a suburb of Tampa. If you go by the definition of a metropolitan area that includes Manatee and not even Manatee, one more county over, Sarasota, that goes all the way up to Northport. That is part of the Tampa metropolitan area. And heading north, some people live in Citrus County. Now that they extended the Veterans Highway, there's people that live in Citrus County that commute to Tampa every single day. In fact, I know people that live in Hernando County that commute to Manatee County. Means they drive from north of Tampa to south of Tampa to work. That's what a metropolitan area is. Don't understand why people have a problem with this term. Babcock Ranch outside of Fort Myers almost made the list. Kind of almost made the list. It's got a Publix. It's got a few restaurants. But is Fort Myers really a metropolitan area? Kind of, in a way. There isn't really a large urban core here, so I was kind of indecisive. And also, it's not exactly a suburb. It's kind of more like a subdivision, but it's so big it could be a suburb, so I wasn't really sure about this one. But nonetheless, if you're okay living in the middle of absolutely nowhere, it's not a bad place if you want to live in Southwest Florida with a little bit of isolation from the rest of the urban core. CNN published an article saying that they survived Hurricane Ian because of their construction and their modern efficiency. That was all a load of crap. Like, I lived like not too far away when I lived in Lehigh Acres, and quite literally, like, if you drive 5 miles in one direction, there was no wind damage. And then if you drive like 5 miles to the west, it was completely destroyed. Had absolutely nothing to do with this community and more to do with the fact that Hurricane Ian just didn't make it here for some reason. I get so aggravated at these online lists and online videos that try to expose something, but clearly have an agenda, so they just twist the story in a weird way. Absolutely infuriates me. But hey, here's a community in Florida that went to CNN and not to Fox News for their advertisement. I hear the bass fishing on these lakes isn't too bad. And Tiger King guy used to have a tiger farm not too far away. So, possibly tigers in the woods, kids driving golf carts around. Who the crap knows what could happen here. If you don't mind running into Carol Baskins while you're at the Publix, it's not a bad place to live. Coral Springs and Glen almost made the list. I think it's a great place, but you guys know all that crap, so it was kind of difficult to throw it in here because YouTube's kind of weird. I did a video in a suburb of Denver, and the video got dropped off the internet because the town's name and all that. So sometimes the internet can be kind of weird. I think it's awfully unfair to the towns where these things happen, because then forever the internet will try to censor the name of those towns, even though, you're not talking about whatever. It's weird. But yeah, that's my list of the best suburbs to live in Florida. And I hope you guys like my list. I know you guys are not going to be happy, because when I initially requested you guys to vote on what you guys thought were the best suburbs for each of these metropolitan areas, the answers that I got were really shocking to me. If you think that I missed something on my list, or if something that I threw on here you think was ridiculous and didn't belong in this list, let me hear your thoughts and opinions. Even though Florida's not a perfect place, people are moving to Tampa, Orlando, and Miami, and I just want to give you guys some good suggestions on places that are not horrendous. And yes, Lakewood Ranch is part of the Tampa metropolitan area.